Happy Monday, everyone. This is Martha with Nature Niche, and this week I wanted to share with you some footage of fledglings from my feeders and talk to you about how to recognize them. I've been having so much fun, and I thought, as we celebrate Independence Day, it'd be fun to show you some birds kind of finding their independence and learning how to be more adult birds. So birds progress through sort of that hatchling phase, newly hatched. A lot of bird species don't have feathers and have eyes closed. Then to the nestling phase where they're like fuzzy feathered and growing very quickly for about 2 weeks in the nest or nest box. And then they fledge, so they leave the nest. They have their flight feathers. Some species tend to leave before the baby birds can truly fly, but they're pretty close. And they learn to fly quickly. So I've been seeing a lot of these fledglings on my feeding stations. And mid-spring throughout the summer, you can see fledglings. And so how do you recognize them? The fledgling birds are often the same size as the parents, and they may look even larger. They tend to be fluffy. They have those fresh, brand new feathers. And the parents' feathers can look sort of tattered or ratty or worn, especially like woodpeckers having to go in and out of the nest hole all the time. The females with, thin belly feathers from having a brood patch during incubation. Another way to tell is plumage, color, and pattern. In a lot of species, the fledglings are colored and patterned very similarly to the females. Here you can see a male adult bluebird with a fledgling. The fledglings tend to be speckled in this species, but have, from a distance, look a lot like a female bluebird. And in some species, the fledgling plumage is quite different. So here's an adult European starling with the yellow bill and dark plumage with lighter speckles, and a couple of fledgling starlings that are more smooth gray brown with darker bills and total lack of speckling. Here's another example of very different plumage. I had to look this one up. It is a immature male orchard oriole. So the yellow plumage, a lot like the female, but you can see the black chin and throat of this species. So the adult males look a lot like Baltimore orioles with bright chestnut underparts. Another clue that you have a fledgling is observation of begging behavior. So the fledglings will often sit there and they'll shiver or flutter their wings, hold their mouths open, and often do begging calls or cries. And the parents will come and feed them outside of the nest for 1 up to 3 weeks after they've fledged. I'll let you take a listen. Here's a baby Baltimore oriole fledgling begging for some food from these adult males. You'll often see fledglings just sort of acting different from what you would expect the adult birds. They'll be sitting there, but not really actively feeding, and kind of acting like they don't know quite what to do. So they learn from the adults, and they'll often sit at your feeding stations and wait for the adults to come by and feed them or show them the feeding behavior. They also can be pretty clumsy. You can see these fledgling eastern bluebirds and a fledgling Baltimore oriole just sort of hanging out at my feeder station and not really getting into the jelly or going into the barrier guard feeder right away. Although that one figured it out finally and got comfortable going in and out for mealworms. And the wait finally paid off for this Baltimore oriole fledgling. Adult comes by and gives it something to eat. And another thing to look for is just curiosity. Often the fledglings have no fear of humans, and really they learn that from the adults, either scolding them or giving them alarm calls. Just as an example, I've noticed one that I'm going through suet really quickly, but two that I had a bunch of woodpeckers hanging out on the tree and just staring at me, waiting for me to get that suet feeder hung back up after bringing it in at night to keep it away from the raccoons. And so, yeah, really no fear of me, like hanging out in the tree waiting for the yummy suet to be put back out for them. And you can see here some of the baby downies struggling with the concept of where to land on the suet feeder, still trying to figure out that coordinated movement. So you may find a fledgling on the ground this time of year, but you should know, unless it's in immediate danger from vehicular or other kinds of foot traffic or a predator, like a neighborhood cat or your dog, it's really best to leave fledglings alone. Their parents are certainly nearby and will care for them. It is okay to move them if they are in danger, though. You just want to place them in a shrub, someplace safe where they're still within earshot of where you found them, so that the parents can relocate them and continue to care for them. We can support fledglings with good nutrition, feeding quality foods that can be carried easily. They like high fat, high protein things like suet nuggets, insects in the form of live or dried mealworms, but most importantly, we need to provide native plants in our landscapes that support native insects, because that's what they really grow up on and develop. They need that high protein diet. It's just a huge portion of what they eat as they're growing quickly through that hatchling, nestling, and fledgling phases. So we can help them get off to a strong start by doing those things. And I hope that this holiday weekend you get to enjoy some of the fledgling antics at your own feeders. Take care and have a good week.